Hey, what's happening? It's so good to see y'all. I see Terry's here. I see Angel Monique is here. I know there are a few other people. Um, Maybe we get the microphone in. How about that? Microphone is on, so of course, communication. All right. I know there's a few other people, but I didn't get to see you actually enter the space, so I can't greet you by name. But those of you who I have seen, welcome. Thanks for stopping through. This is the pre-read. This is a weird angle. Like, I'm not, hold on a second. That's a little better. I felt like I was cut off, like I was on some Oompa Loompa. You know what I mean? I didn't like that. I see Kamisha Umstead is here. I see Erica Yolita is in the building. I see Mimi Brown, Mimi Brown, Mimi Brown, Mimi Brown, Mimi Brown. Anyhow, so good to have all of y'all here. So you'll notice, or maybe you've noticed, maybe you haven't noticed, that I didn't actually promote that there was a pre-read. And for now, for a little while, that's the way I'm going to do things. The pre-read is really, it's very informal. It's very casual. I treat this a little bit like a podcast. I treat it a little bit like a discussion group. I treat it a little bit like um, sort of my own personal journal blog. So it's all of that and then some. Sometimes I'll read pieces here that I'm kind of working through. It formerly was the space where I would debut pieces from other writers, but we have shifted that. That's all from now forward going to happen in the actual Storytime context. Um, I made that decision sometime or that choice some time ago. I think I said something about it, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the title of tonight's ramblings is 3 of 3,000, baby. Um, some of you all know that I am the son of a preacher woman. Mama Long, Mama Carol, to some of you all, has been ordained. She was ordained back in, I want to say 84. That might not quite be right, but she's had her hand on the gospel plow for some time. And early in her ministry, she had been called upon to serve in the absence of a pastor. Now, this was a woman pastor of another denomination. My mom was one of the first, if not the first, Black woman preacher to be ordained in the Southern Baptist Seminary, which, for those of you all who have any association or affiliation with that, know exactly. I saw out of the corner of my eye bean. But anyone who has any affiliation with that knows that that's kind of a big deal. And it caused quite a stir and a brouhaha at the time. But my mother had been called upon to serve as essentially the guest officiant and operate a church in the absence of one Annie Sadler Thomas, who was a pastor of a very small, family community church. And I remember going with her. She was going to be there, I think, for 4 Sundays. So that was 4 Sundays away from our home church. And I remember going with her that first Sunday, and it was empty. It was just us. I mean, and that was because Reverend Sadler's church was very, very small. And so there was maybe her and a loyal deacon and maybe one or two other people. And as you can imagine, when they knew that she wasn't going to be there, they didn't show up. And I remember my mom getting up, and she did every single part of the church service. She did devotions. She asked if there was testimony, which was awkward because I was a little kid and I was looking around. There was nobody to fill in the gaps. So I was like, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. I had to say something. We sang all the songs. She read the scripture. She didn't do, thank God, she didn't do the turn to your neighbor bit. She didn't do that part, but she did every part of the church service. And when all the way up to the end, when it was time to, as they say, open up the doors of the church. And when she did that, I raised my hand. I said, Mama, it's just us. Like that was my line. That was my limit. Like, okay, you're going to do all the other parts, but like, come on, like you're up there preaching, I'm saved. Like, why are we doing this? But my mom conducted the service under, with the same mindset and mentality that informed a great much of what we did then, and still to this day, how we worship. She conducted the services based on the mindset where two or three are gathered in my name, touching and agreeing, I'll be there in the midst, which is a line of scripture. And that was how she came at it. If it was just us, we were going to serve God anyhow. We were going to praise and worship anyhow. And as confounded as I was by certain parts of that, I had tremendous respect for that. So why am I telling this story? What does that have to do with anything? Well, the title of this particular episode is 3 of 3,000. And I cited in the description fairly popular Jay-Z quote, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And that was said in some arrogance following, I can't remember the exact awards ceremony it was about, but it was essentially his way of flaunting his success and the sales of his album. Well deserved. Jay-Z is a phenomenal artist who has really mastered the marketing of human tragedy and triumph. That being said, and that's no shade, it is what he does. But that being said, I think I take some issue with that. I think I take some issue with the idea that men lie and women lie and numbers don't. I think numbers do lie. I think numbers are what they are, but I think the meaning that numbers portend is the lie. And I'm saying that because here I am at this stage. We're at a little bit of a crossroads here. Like this story time with Julian and the pre-read and the after story are now in this sort of weird hybrid position of being not just a hobby, not quite a business. They're a passion and a business sort of. Something is coming of this. It is certainly a discipline. It is certainly a practice. It is certainly something that requires that I pay some attention to the numbers now. This isn't free anymore to make. Like, this costs me money now to make. Books cost and graphics cost and subscriptions so that I can put this on YouTube and other things. They cost. So I have to figure out what's worth it. Am I getting the most for my money? Am I getting the biggest bang for my buck? I got to think about these things. Stuff that I didn't have to think about before. I have to think about how many of you are bearing witness. How many of you all are enjoying this? Where are you watching? If everybody is watching on Facebook, does it make sense to put this on YouTube? What's my end goal? What am I working toward? I have a manager who asks me these questions now, and she's pretty particular about what is your next step? What is your vision plan for this? How do you plan on getting there? All of this stuff is important. And because I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, you can tell I'm an artist. I got on my artist scarf today. This is artist shit. Because I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, the numbers worry me sometimes. Literally just recently, as of tonight, and I want to say thank you to Rel Bell, because I believe Rel Bell was the 100th subscriber. As of tonight, we were able to get 100 subscriptions on YouTube. One of the things that does is it opens up certain options on the channel for how I can upload content and whether or not I can put little freeze frames in the content. And more specifically and more importantly, it allows me to have a link that is youtube.com/C/Storytime with Julian, as opposed to youtube.com/channel/ or whatever Kubert said. Anyway, so that was kind of a big deal, and I was pressing to get that, and I'm pressing to grow the number of followers on Twitter, not because I need an ego boost, but because I do have a plan for this, and I want this to expand and grow out. But in the past, I have been of the mindset that if wasn't nobody paying attention, there was no point. I've mentioned before several times that I have a Patreon. The Patreon is not inactive because this, in fact, what we're doing here is paid for in part by what comes through the Patreon. So thank you to all the patrons. But The original intent and design of that Patreon, I wasn't carrying through, in large part because I would be writing and writing and writing and producing new content, you know, every week, twice a week, and there were little to no response. Even though I knew I had patrons and followers, there was just very little response, and it became frustrating and aggravating, and it was disheartening. And so I thought, well, if nobody's paying attention, what am I doing? You guys who have followed me for some time have heard me talk about writing into the void. Writing into the void was always my big concern. I hated that. And even with this effort, with this endeavor, there are times when I look up, you know, I can see there's a little ticker up at the top and it tells me how many people are on. And sometimes I see it drop at a certain point in the read and I get all, because the numbers are lying. It's really what it comes down to. Now, it's not the numbers lying by themselves. I help the numbers lie. And I want you to be clear, we all help the numbers lie. But if what is in your bank account establishes for you what your worth is, numbers lie. If your salary establishes the value of your time on this planet, or the time that is spent pursuing your passion and what you're actually here for, because you were put here for a purpose. There is a thing that was birthed inside you that needs to come out of you, that was meant to be done. And you are trading some of the time that you're supposed to be giving to that thing for a salary. And that's fine. It is a time trade. We all have to live, but that salary is not indicative of what your value on this planet is. Numbers lie. And my number of subscribers is in no way indicative of the value of this thing that I do. If someone said to me, hey, what would you be willing to do to be an inspiration to somebody to get them to write a book, if you knew that that book was going to be a bestseller and it would change their life? I can't imagine what kind of valuation I would place on that. What kind of value do you place on being the inspiration for helping to be the catalyst for someone else's greatness? But I have very good reason to believe that I've done that. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it come out in spades. What if somebody said, what would you be willing to do? What's the number you would put on helping someone survive unknowable grief? What if somebody said to me, Julian, how important would you consider it to help somebody survive a night they didn't think they were going to survive, and help them see a morning that they were pretty sure they weren't going to see? I got no number for that. There's no number of subscribers that answers that question for me. There's no number. There's no valuation I can put on that. But I have been informed that this little thing that I'm doing with my currently 17 viewers, down from 22 earlier, because I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. But those numbers don't matter. I can't put a value on that. And if only one person watched and only that one person was impacted and affected, then a good thing happened. A necessary thing happened. I'm going to do this tonight. And what's tonight? Thursday? Lord Jesus. And next Tuesday and following Thursday, I'm going to do this, whether it's 3 or 3,000. If 2 or 3 are gathered, touching and agreeing, I'm going to do this. Because the numbers lied to me a lot for a very long time. I let a lot of numbers lie to me. I let my salary working in advertising lie to me and tell me what I was worth, and tell me that writing wasn't worth it because it would cost me those numbers. When my mom was in the hospital recovering from her second stroke, the numbers lied to everybody. because they said she wasn't gonna make it. Numbers lie sometimes. And so because numbers can misrepresent the truth, you have to act like all the numbers are equal. And you have to find a truth that is not quantified by those numbers. You have to find a truth that is real for you, that exists for you, that is definitive for you, that will be true whether the number is 12 or 12 million. What is true for me, whether the number is 12 or 12 million, is that I love Black literature. I love moving and inspiring and touching people. I love reading. I love the written word. I love the spoken word. I love giving life to words. And because that is true no matter what, I've found a truth that's bigger than the numbers. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want these numbers to grow. I want these numbers to grow. And please, ma'am, please, sir, as you watch this, if this show, or well, not this show, but the show that comes after this show, has done anything to touch, move, and inspire you, then share it with somebody. Do me that solid. Share these links. Help this to grow. Because as this grows, we're going to expand the available platforms for Black artists, for Black writers to have their voices heard in a context that serves explicitly, that is designated for Black people. Because our art has a tendency to be consumed by the hegemony without a lot of regard for what its original intent and purpose was. And we're not going to do that here. We're not going to do that here. We write Black, we read Black, we support Black, we buy Black. Because it's necessary. And because though we may be 12 to 14% of the population, we are good 80 to 90 to 100% of the culture. Unquestionably. So 3 or 3,000, y'all got me. Y'all stuck with me. This is what we do. And whatever it is in your life that you've been waiting on a validation through valuation to tell you it's what you really need to be doing, cut that shit out right now. Because there is no number that's going to tell you the impact that you could have. Octavia Butler, the late, great, celebrated Octavia Butler, wrote in her I guess her book of manifestations or intentions that she was going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. And that happened last month, well after her death. It happened last month, well after she had become the celebrated, the known, the vaunted Octavia E. Butler. Those numbers didn't mean a damn thing. I mean, yes, they're nice to have. New York Times bestseller numbers are lovely to have. I aspire to them sometime soon. I think we got somebody in this group right now that's already hitting them. Rion, is you in here? If you are, good to see you, man. I thought I saw somebody say hello to you. But hitting those kind of numbers, that's a thing. That's a real thing. But those numbers didn't make her. She didn't need those numbers to be the Octavia E. Butler. And you don't need those numbers to be the great thing that the universe has called you to be. And you may not see it if you're looking for numbers, but the impact of every action that you do when you are in your purpose is immeasurable. That's all I got. This has been the pre-read. I'm Julian Long. I'm going to catch you guys on the flip with Storytime with Julian. Tonight we are reading A Missing Piece. That's Peace, despite the misspellings in the promo materials. We're going to fix that later. But A Missing Piece by Edwidge Dandicat from a book that's familiar to us, Crick Crack. Some of you all have seen it before. We're going to be revisiting this book. I look forward to sharing that story with you tonight. Thanks for coming by the pre-read, and I'll talk to you soon. Deuces.